clear. Alright, you may be asking why am I looking at the garbage in the water? And that's because the garbage in the water is a really good indication. It's probably one of the better indications, whether it be the garbage or anything floating in the water, of what I can see that's happening regardless of the tide tables, but of what is happening right there in the at the slip that we're getting underway from. Alright, go ahead, start in stern, work to the bow. Good morning. I'm Tim and this is TimBatSea. And it's a beautiful morning here in the Kills. We're going to get underway and head out of the Kills eastbound into the sun. And there's a ship that's going to anchor right there. And in fact, the chart plotter on it right now, but I really should be bringing the chart plotter to where I am. There we go.
Radio check last clear, Captain.
And we'll get alongside the ship and do a bunker job. So come on aboard. I've already checked in with traffic. Got another busy channel here that we're fighting for. See who's going to dominate the radio waves on our channel, but I think we'll be all right. Now it looks like we're just about at slack water. I was looking at the debris in the water to see what was moving around us. And what that means is this particular aft or last caisson doesn't have any rubber on it. There's a pad further up. So my plan is to shoot up to the next pad, put the corner of the barge on that pad, rotate in, get the bow moving out, and then shoot ahead. So that's what we have going on. Now while they're doing this, I should make a security call.
Yeah, Cap. I'm northbound here. I'm going to be going into berth 75 at Con Hook. I'll let you come on in. I'll take your stern.
Thanks, Cap. I appreciate it.
Security call, Tug Elk River. Singling up lines at Gordon's. We'll be headed for Shipside Stapleton. Tug Elk River. Alright. Oh. That's why we test the steering. Make sure that everything's working. I hadn't turned on the pump. That's why we test it. Alright. It's working. We've got throttle controls. They got one more line, 2 more lines to go. And here goes my buddy Sean. Morning, Sean.
See you on the 2.
On the 2.
Got a white red flag?
Partially loaded red flag. Alright, take her in.
Yep, last line coming in here.
My buddy Sean is he's a funny guy. He's making a few inside jokes there. Don't know if you caught them all or not. That's okay. Alright, so now he just took in the last of the lines. I'm going to move ahead about 15 feet till I get to the corner of that cell. Alright, what I'm going to do, you can stay up there, you can do whatever you want. I'm just going to slide ahead on this last pad. When I get to the corner of the last pad, I'm going to rotate on it. I got somebody coming around the corner here, so I got to wait for him anyway.
Okay, roger. You're about creeping ahead of your valve open, slowed, bottom line.
CF Campbell from the Elk River. Good morning, Cap. Getting underway from Gordon's over here. I see you coming there, but maybe you give me a little bit of room and I'll pop her out here once you get by me.
Okay, well done.
Very good, thank you. Alright, so now coming up to that last pad. I just got to slow down a little bit, put my rudder hard over and twist into that pad. doing a rate twist. Now I can see the pad over here in the corner really good, so I can verify whether I'm moving ahead on it. I don't want to be twisting against it and go either off of it or before it, because it really, if you're going to put pressure on it, you really should put pressure on the middle of the pad.
Now we'll be turning to starboard, going down the lower end of beverage.
Okay, we'll see you on one there, Cap. I'm headed over toward the KV to kill a little time for somebody coming in.
First see you on 2, Cap. Just putting the wide here and turning down. First see you on 2.
Okay, I got a good angle on the barge now. Now I'm just waiting for this other guy who's up ahead of me to, I don't want to take off and crowd him, so I'm just going to go all stop, and we should be able to reset my rudder. I should be able to come right off the dock. Alright, we'll call it 0710 underway.
Alright, 0710. You ready for me to come back?
Yes, sir.
Alright.
Write the logbook.
Franklin to the Dillon. Yeah, it's going to need to go around that,
Alright, that guy's just about where we need him to be. It's going to take me a little bit of time to get going, and in that time he'll get hopefully by us. So
yeah, I got you.
time to kick the tires and light the fires, as Captain Ron would say. Now you see up here on my chart plotter, I have the ship we're going to highlighted, and right now what it's telling me is that he's still making 1.6 knots, and that he's like 3.5 miles away from me. So if I pull the chart over there, I can see where he's at. He's turning around to anchor right over here. And so I don't have to go roaring up there, because he's got to anchor and get the anchor set, get the pilot off, and then let everything settle down. Because if I go up there too fast, then things start getting crazy and I end up chasing him around. Okay, so now we're underway. Let me call traffic and let them know.
Alright, I'm back on board.
Very good. Good job. Thank you. Traffic from the Elk River.
Elk River, bye.
We are underway at this time, and I've made arrangements for the CF cable.
Motor vessel fairway from the Kingsport.
Right, Sheridan's on the contact range, bound for east of 4. Southern east of 4.
Very good. Good copy. So he just told me about this guy, that he's going to be bound for a slip behind me. So I'm coming out of here, and I'm going to let him know. Sarah Dan from the Elk River. Good morning, Cap. I see you coming around the corner there. We'll see you on the one. Very good.
New house traffic, northward. Traffic, vertical Kennedy to Barnes Battery southbound.
Oh, it sure is a beautiful day. We've got a number of days of cloudy weather. It's supposed to be hot and sticky out there.
Thank you, traffic.
Haven't had to put on the air conditioning yet up here in the upper house, but that will happen pretty soon. So as you can see, I'm coming around here, coming around the 8 buoy, making my way this way. Instead of putting hard movements in, try to just give a
Lead over that,
little bit of rudder and let the time work on it. Slowly work my way around. Give this light tug a little quarter.
Okay, we got one spot here if you need it.
Yeah, we've had a little difficulty. We got some new radios, and our new radios seem to, they don't seem to work as well as the old radios worked. They, a lot of channels bleed over onto other channels, and the channels we get to work seem to be propagated with other people working those channels, or God forbid, a regatta or a marina's launch service, or even spillover from ground-based things like EMS and taxi dispatch and all that sort of stuff. So, fortunately, our radio situation continues to be a thorn in our side, but we're able to work through it. All right, so coming up to the Conhook Range here. You look on the chart here. This right here is actually what we call the range, but we're coming up to it. And I'm going to be chasing this ship around, and that's going to be kind of boring for you. So I'm going to shut the cameras off here, and when we get over to the ship, we'll turn them back on again. So let's see if I can do the big, not so much Hollywood, but the big YouTube thing. I'll be back just like... Okay, so we're back. And this ship up ahead of us, this red one that says Capel on it, that's where we're going. And we're going to spin around. Okay, Dalton, we're getting close. When you get up there, we need the Yoki's down on the port side.
The Sandy Hook Channel, south of the Anchorage Channel, moving easterly, standing by on 13 and 16 for all concerned traffic.
So I originally thought we were going to the port side of the ship. The ship has just called me and said that they want us on the starboard side of the ship. Nice. Yeah, and so I'm going to come left a little bit to give myself a good amount of room to turn. And you might see that water that's pumping off the bow on both sides of the bow. A lot of people ask about that. And as far as I know, that's the cooling water for the windlass that they've just launched their anchor, or set their anchor, I should say, and they run the water for the cooling of the hydraulics and that sort of stuff through the hose pipe there where the chain comes up to scrub all the mud off. Now the water that's coming off the back end of it, I'm assuming is probably rainwater, where they've popped they seal the deck in case there's a oil spill, and then when it rains, it fills up with water, and if there isn't any oil there, they pull the plugs and let it all drain off. So I assume that's what's happening. One thing you can notice about the ship is you see the anchor. The chain there is not going straight down. It's kind of led forward, and it's not as bad as the other ships. The other ships I passed had it even at a more of an angle, and so that's indicative of the tide really working on the ship, pulling it back. So that's good news for us. That means that we'll have a little bit of opposing tide, so that's going to be good for us. So now this barge is actually not so heavy. I can slow down a little bit. I'm doing 9.6, which is a little awkward. So slow down a little bit. And I want to get, at least up to the ship, maybe halfway by the ship before I make my turn. A classic mistake that I've made way too often throughout my career, and probably will make again today, is that I get too anxious and I start turning on the ship too quickly, and by the time I get there, I'm landing too high on the ship. Got you loud and clear. Alright. Now we're just coming by the bow of the ship. Looks like I can turn into the ship now, but when I look over at 90 degrees to where I'm at, just coming in line with the bow. And when we come around, you'll see where it says Capital. That's usually where the connection is for these tankers. It's much easier to do bunker work on these than it is a lot of the container ships. The container ships have them back aft, and you have to worry about the rake of the ship getting caught underneath it. Alright, so now I'm coming by, the first third of the ship. Before I pull the power back anymore, I'm going to put the rudder hard right. Really get the bow moving before I pull the power off of it. If you pull the power off and then turn the rudder over, it doesn't really get anything moving. So I'm going to take my starboard engine, go all stop, click it into reverse, and start our twist. And everything's going to rattle and hum, and that's indicative of us going 7 knots through the water, and it's trying to back on that. So that's okay. Get this thing turned around. My AB's out there dropping the Yokohamas. Some people have asked me in the comments what a Yokohama is, and it's just what we call the fenders. And I believe, although I don't know this for sure, I believe it's similar to back in the day when we used to refer to all photocopy machines as Xerox. Like you'd say, oh, I'm going to Xerox this. Even if it was a copy machine made by another company, we still would refer to it as Xerox. Maybe I'm showing my age by saying that. Well, anyway, the Yokohama you might recognize as a rubber company from, well, it might be a company that does a lot of things, but you might, here in the U.S., we might see a lot of tires for Yokohama Tire Company. They also make these big fenders. And so, in our industry, or at least where we are anyway, we've started to refer to many of them as Yokohamas, even if it's made by a different brand. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen a fender with Yokohama written on the side of it, but that's what we call them. So when you guys ask what Yokohama is, now you'll know. So we're about, let's say, a third of the way through the turn, maybe a little bit more than that, and we're still staying off the ship, which is good. You can see my red predictor line is going that way, not that way, which is kind of good. That means I'm backing enough. That means I can come ahead a little bit more and try to get this thing to snap around. Because all the backing I'm doing doesn't really bring the bow around at all.
Brooklyn's preparing to drop lines west of 3 IMTT Bayonne. We'll be backing out the stream east for Buttermilk, east for Brooklyn.
Now some of you may ask what this bridge is right here, up ahead of us. That's the infamous Verrazano Bridge. Sometimes we refer to it as the VZ Bridge. We usually do that in the log because we don't want to have to spell out Verrazano.
That's great, good.
And the remains of the old fort over here, on the Staten Island side. I think that's part of Fort Hamilton. I mean, Wadsworth. Excuse me, Hamilton's the other side. Yeah, I think that's the original fort for Fort Wadsworth, where VTS is located. I'm not positive about that, but that's what I think it is. Now you can see that red line is kind of going right with the tide, so we're spinning around, holding position here, so I can start easing up on my backing engine to start getting that red line to start go forward, because we're sometimes I worry that I haven't turned enough and I get too tight on the ship. That's not an issue right now. In fact, I'm going to zoom in on this so I have a better look at things. You can see the grid starts coming up, and this grid pattern here on the chart is all for anchoring, so that the ships know, the VTS will give them a grid, and you have to go to that spot to drop your anchor. Dalton, ask the tankerman if he's got both products or one, the ship was asking. Alright, so now we're coming around here. I'm going to straighten out my rudder. Very good, thank you.
Brooklyn underway from IMTT Bayonne.
I'm going to switch channels here. I'll be right back to you. Aristofanis from the Elk River.
Roger that. Go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to confirm we have both products on board for you, and we're coming up to you now. Very good.
Elk River, Sergeant Miller.
Elk River.
Hey, Doc, Kubo's coming at you. You need your slow boat come by you?
Yeah, bring her on, Cap.
Copy that. You have a good day.
You too. Alright, let me put the radio back on channel to talk to my guy on deck. Alright, I'm back.
Security call, Brooklyn's underway, backing out.
Okay, so right now it looks like everything's going good, but you can see that red line is falling to the other side of the ship. That means I'm going to be closing in on the ship, and I'm only doing 2.6, so I'm going to start increasing speed and trying to get the bow turned the other way to get that red line on the right side of the ship. And luckily, this barge isn't too loaded too much, so I should be able to stop it. It's not like if I put too much energy in it, I'd take too much energy out of it. I think with the tide, we're going to be fine. You may have heard me just talking to my deckhand and talking to the ship. The ship had asked if we had both products. And what that usually means, I don't know, I'm not a tankerman, but what I suspect they're talking about is that ships usually within, I think it's like, within a certain distance from the coast of certain areas are required because of pollution laws are required to burn cleaner fuel. And they call it maneuvering fuel, which is basically diesel. But the same engine can burn the much cheaper.
Keep live right now, close and slow. Another 50 ahead, start for the rest of us there.
Very good. Okay, you can see that red line is straight ahead. Everything's going good. I can start pointing over to the middle of the ship, nice and slow. Starting to bleed off speed at 430. But anyway, the black oil, the number 6 oil, or the bunker oil, that they burn when they're in the middle of the ocean, is much cheaper. And so the ship was wondering if there's going to be 2 different barges, and in this case we have both products on the same barge. Now the reason why I'm not coming so close to the ship is, if you remember, I told you to take a look at the chain on the bow of the ship. Now take a look at the water pouring off of here. See how the bubbles that it makes are going after the ship very quickly? That's showing that there's a lot of current here. So even if I'm very far off the ship, I'll be able to use that current to walk the barge right over to the ship. So it shouldn't be an issue. If anything, I got to worry that I'm not going to fly in there by accident. Very good. Okay, now I'm getting close. I'm going to start turning down my other radio so I only hear
40 on the bow.
my AV calling me in. 40 on the bow, he says. And we were saying before, you see where it says capital on the ship. That's going to be where we want the middle of the barge to be. And I'm still looking at that red line, and that's showing me falling into the ship. So I'm going to give a little bit more power because I don't want that. I don't want to land on the ship before we get to the flat, and that's kind of where that red and white stripe is on the ship. And incidentally, that red and white stripe on the side of the ship, that's this white over red is the light symbol for a pilot. So a ship that has white over red, pilot ahead, they hang a white light and then a red light, and that means that they have a pilot. They put that stripe on the side of the ship so that the pilot knows where the boarding ladder is, or the pilot boat operator. Okay, so now I'm here. I get it down to like 1.7. I'm going to bend the bow over there, and then what's going to happen is once...
25 on the bow, 20 on the stern.
Very good. Once the bow gets over there, there's enough tide that it should pull us right over. So now I go all stop and just let it kind of work its way over. I'm going to reset my rudder to the other side in case the barge goes flying over there. We can stop it.
15 on the down, coming into 12. 12 on the down.
Do you want to go a lot higher to catch your bow lines and fall back, or you want to stay right here?
Now, we got to come ahead about 80 feet or so for that forward set of shots.
All right, coming ahead 80 feet. All right, so now he's at 10 feet at the bow. My rudder's hard over, which is good. I want to come ahead and kind of keep the bow there, but squeeze the stern over all the time. We're going to go 80 feet up, he says, and that's going to put us past our spot. But the reason why we do this is that we're going to hang the bow lines up there and then go all stop, and the current will pull us right back and tighten up the lines. 50 ahead.
Wide on the bow.
Very good. 8 wide on the bow, stern's coming in, everything's looking good. We're only making 1.2 knots, even with the engines here about at quarter, just because the tide's running so hard. I'm going to go all stop and let it coast.
8 on the bow.
I'm concerned about the bow pulling off because of the rake of the bow, how the bow bends over. The current will hit the bow and grab our bow and push it off. In fact, you can kind of see it happening right now.
All the way down.
So,
15 ahead, we get close to each other, get ready to cast the line off.
very good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm doing a left twist. I'm twisting the bow in to counteract the current that is getting blown by the ship's bow. Now it's starting to move. I go all stop. I center my rudder just in case I need it.
Right underneath our even line now. We're going to pass 2 lines up. Don't want to go on the cap. Don't want to be on top or on the inboard side.
Very good. Okay, so now I'm going to just get it stopped here. Oh, now the bow's still getting ready to cut. I guess we're all right. I was getting nervous the bow was going to keep coming in, but it looks like the current there is keeping it off. I thought they were going to take up both lines at the same time, but I guess they're going to do it in 2 different lifts. So right now I'm just watching the bow, seeing we're about 4 feet off, he says. Very good. And I'm just trying to hold position, and I'm just putting it in gear and taking it out of gear. If I see it falling over, I'll put the rudder the other way. But because there's enough current here, I have to keep pumping it in gear or we start falling backwards. I look at the clock because we logged what time our first line goes up, and then we're all fast. Okay, so we're getting close there with the bow, so I'm going to...
We got a back line made off, then we got one more line to pass off, make it place turn way. Get ready to lock down the back line here to see how it is.
Alright, I can wait until you get that other line up if you want.
Yeah, we're falling back into this line now. It's made off. We're slowly coming inside. We'll get the bow line off, tighten it off, and see how it looks.
Very good. So, I didn't even have to back, just the current alone is pulling us back, even with me working every once in a while with one in clutch there. So the 2 lines that they're putting up there, what they do is the ship is like this and the barge is like this. And they put one line going like this, and that keeps the barge from falling back. And they put another line from here over there, and that keeps the bow from falling off. So it's a very, very safe, very good arrangement that way. What's kind of unfortunate about it, it works really well when the tide is running. When the tide goes slack, those 2 don't really do much at all. You got to have ones back here to help out when the tide changes. But usually out here, the tide will go slack just for a few minutes and it switches the other way. Now the ship won't switch that quickly, but what will happen is it'll start working on the ship and the ship will start moving us, the barge will start following the ship around. And that's about it. Anyway, you've made it this far in the video. Very good, thank you. Made it this far in the video. Thank you very much. Feel free to leave me a comment. I love to talk to you guys in the comment section. And feel free to subscribe. Cheap and easy way to support the channel. And as always, I'll see you guys on the one.